Hi everyone! In today's video, I interview my longtime friend Chris Lorn, who has had a successful career as one of the youngest directors at Philip Morris International, and he has also been featured in Forbes 30 Under 30. Chris has experienced a number of job transitions in his career, including leaving many jobs for other jobs, so I thought I would share his story. He even had a job transition in the midst of the pandemic last year. And I hope this interview will help those who are currently looking for a job or just want some inspiration in their life during this ongoing hardship. If this is of interest to you, please stay tuned. Good morning, Chris. How are you today?
I'm doing well.
Good. Thank you for coming on The Black Suit to talk about your experience. We really appreciate your time. So let's just get right into it. Can you describe a little bit of your work history?
Yeah, so my work history has been a bit unorthodox. I graduated with a degree in cultural anthropology and archaeology with an aspiration to dive into archaeology, mostly ancient civilizations, hunters and gatherers.
Mhm.
But, after mounting student loan debt, it pushed me into the business world where I just took a stab at analytics and marketing. So it was a very crapshoot type of decision that I had made just because one of my mentors had pulled me in to one of his companies. And after that point, I had just been within the world of marketing, advertising, brand building, and so forth. But to give a bit of background about where I've been, it's ranged from anywhere from pharmaceutical companies, from electronic data capture, to advertising, working on brands such as Samsung, Pepsi, Pizza Hut, all the way to big tobacco companies like Philip Morris International. So it spans the gamut, but at the end of the day, what I've done has fundamentally been the same. It has been within the marketing and advertising realm. And surprisingly, what I found is that I've utilized a lot more of my cultural anthropology skills that I picked up in college than I had originally thought I would, just because a lot of marketing really has to do with the social sciences and consumer psychology pretty much. So after that point, after all of this marketing work and a very tumultuous career, to be honest, I've now transitioned into the higher ed category and am pretty happy with where I am now.
Very cool. That's great to hear. I think that you speak about your tumultuous history. I think the viewers are curious about what that history was like. I know that we know each other on a personal level, so I know you've quit a number of jobs and have had a wealth of experience through all the positions you've held. Can you describe what were some of the main factors that led you to leave your jobs, or what was the shape of that tumultuous history for you?
Definitely. I think a statistic out there is that 80% of people leave their jobs due to a manager. And in my case, that was definitely the reason why I left most of my jobs. I think it was only one job where I left of my own volition just due to another opportunity. But at a number of these different jobs, especially the industries that I selected, including advertising, they're notorious for working people to the bone. 12, 16-hour days are, sometimes the norm. And that is what people would consider paying your dues. But after a while, it takes a toll physically and mentally. And it was something that I just decided that I didn't want to put up with or really live my life in that way anymore. And I really had to think about reprioritizing my goals. And so in these jobs, it was a lot of, I would say it ranged from things such as verbal abuse to even sexual harassment, which pushed me out of these jobs. And, unfortunately, these are not uncommon incidents that push people out. But at the end of the day, it really was a decision I had to make for myself, given the state of my mental and physical health. And so all of these jobs, I would say that I did have a set of good managers and mentors, but however, the nature of the job, the situation itself soon became untenable, which was a primary factor for me moving on to something else.
Gotcha. And I'm sure a lot of people, especially this year, are experiencing some of what you've described, or are reconsidering their values and their goals in life and what they really want out of their day-to-day. So I think it's really helpful to hear from somebody as experienced as you know, what is out there and what is happening or what has happened and what people can do about it. Were you ever, you know, in all these transitions you've experienced, were you ever scared of what was next, or scared of leaving your job for the next thing?
Definitely. In the beginning, it was a very serious transition. And I have left, I feel I have quit about 3 to 4 jobs without a safety net in place or without another job lined up. And that is both liberating and frightening at the same time. You don't know when your next job is going to come or when opportunities are going to open up in the workforce. You just have to really trust your network, trust yourself and the skill sets you've gained, and feel that you are able to hustle in a way that is going to make ends meet. And so, of course, on my mind during this time was the fear of being able to pay my rent, the fear of being able to, you know, be able to eat, or, you know, even little things just like going out with friends or going out in the city for a coffee, you know, it weighs on your mind at that point. And so it definitely is a factor when I decide to leave my previous jobs. However, I think what gave me the courage to kind of move forward with it was just the fact that I had this hope that life could be better than the situation I was currently in. And no matter how much money they were offering, or it was never enough to compensate for, and I don't use this word lightly, but the amount of abuse that sometimes companies put their employees through. And this outweighed the fear of leaving my job, knowing that I would be able to take the time to heal, recover, recuperate, and make sure that I was in a better state of mind to contribute to another company or to another team.
Sure. Well said, well said. So what advice do you have for folks out there who are really struggling in this pandemic and either have lost their jobs or want something more out of life because they realize more than ever that life is really short?
Yeah, one of the things that came to mind when thinking about these questions was that every job at the end of the day will fundamentally be the same in terms of the day-to-day. Like my marketing work, after going around to, let's say, 9 different companies now within a 10-year span. So approximately about a year at every company. The longest I've been at one was about 4 years or so. But the nature of the work that I do has fundamentally remained the same. And so there is a point in which the work and the skill sets you gain kind of plateau. You reach a certain point where you have to be more innovative in what you do. That doesn't necessarily require working at a company or someone in order to acquire those skills. You can develop those on your own. And when considering to leave your job, I think for me, the most important part was really evaluating what I was chasing. For a long time, to be honest, it was money. Just trying to live in your lifestyle, make ends meet, making sure that I could live comfortably. It was something that I was aspiring to for a very long time. But afterwards, you just come to this aha epiphany moment where you realize that's not necessarily what you want. And I think that's a bit generic, knowing that people say like, well, you need to don't chase the money, chase your passion. And that's easy to say when you have already accumulated a good amount of experience in whatever field you're working in. But it is something that I wish I had done earlier, as it would have helped me understand my priorities and how I would, organize the goals and the values of my life to shape the type of jobs I went after. in this pandemic, it is incredibly difficult. After I quit my last job in October, it took me about, I would say, 6 to 10 months or so of interviewing and job searching in order to find something that was, I would say, like a good fit. A lot of job rejections. And I would say probably, yeah, 90% of the jobs I interviewed for was a rejection, flat out, even without an interview. And so in this case, like even a good amount of experience isn't an insurance policy during these times. And what really matters is going to be the network and the goals that you have set with clarity, and precision, just to make sure that you're choosing the industries, you're choosing the jobs that you feel you can sustain a good long-term career with.
I absolutely agree with that. I think seeing others who are struggling in the pandemic, I agree, like the network seems to be a really valuable asset during these times when a lot of applications are getting rejected because people just don't have the headcount or the space for an extra employee. So I really appreciate hearing your side and your experience and your thoughts on that. And now to our last question. So Chris, you are, one of the youngest directors ever at Philip Morris, or when you were there, and you are on the Forbes, or were on the Forbes list of 30 under 30. So you're a really big deal. And I think the viewers would like to know how you got where you are and what tips you have for people who might see you as a role model and want to sort of emulate you, or just folks in general, people who are of a diverse background. I think right now a lot of people may be feeling lost, so it would be great to hear what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, and I think to preface the Forbes 30 under 30 and the director role at Philip Morris International, I would say that these are things that happened a lot by chance. It was not anything I was expecting or shooting for, but it just came about. I sent in a tweet about to a self-nomination at that point, seeing if I would get it or not, and I did get it. But what it was based on was not my work within the marketing field necessarily. It was really based on the innovation and the skill sets that I developed in a period of unemployment. Actually, a lot of my work that contributed to the Forbes 30 under 30 selection was due to my work at Table for Two, a nonprofit organization that aim to alleviate obesity and malnutrition in developing and developed nations. And this was the work that set the precedent for, a lot of innovative marketing ideas and type of engagements and interactions that led me to this point where they said, hey, you have gotten to a point where you should be recognized as a contributor to the marketing industry. This had nothing to do with any of my previous roles in advertising, in marketing. It was something that was done, outside of that realm. And so I think I just wanted to put it out there that you don't have to rely on a company or the routine day-to-day or any political climbing to accomplish these feats or, these to get on these lists. Mm-hmm. And at the end of the day, I have to say that it was a really big accomplishment and I was very happy about it, but it didn't necessarily get me further in my career. It was another stamp of validation or approval on my CV, mm-hmm. but it wasn't something that, I could shop around and say to employers, hey, I was on the list, hire me. It was just an award at the end. And I think I just need to caveat that because anyone who is shooting for these type of industry awards needs to recognize that it's what you make of it. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the times it's not going to be that safety net or insurance policy you're expecting it to be. But in this case with Philip Morris International, it did open up some doors with my bosses who were quite enamored with what that title brought to their team. Mm-hmm. And so it did result in a couple of promotions here and there. But yeah, afterwards, you know, it is like, it didn't help me in my 10th month journey searching for a job in New York. Like, it's really about what you're doing now, what you versus what you have done in the past. My tip for viewers or anyone starting out their careers to excel in their careers long term is to operate with integrity. More often than not, what I've seen is that every company or every organization that deals with human beings is going to have some level of politics. With politics comes a lot of different types of activities, a lot of different types of values are brought forth within organizations. And sometimes, maybe more often than not these days, those values may not represent, you know, ones of integrity. There's a lot of social climbing, there's a lot of political backstabbing, and I think these are things to watch out for. And I mean, I have to say that narcissistic personality disorder is something that I've seen more often than not in, you know, the corporate realm. Not trying to make a diagnosis here, since I'm not a certified psychologist or, you know, or anything, but these are just very unproductive behaviors that are, and games are played within the realm of corporate politics that have a very detrimental and negative effect on individuals, especially ones who are just trying to do, you know, good, straightforward, honest work. And so I think for any person that's operating within this world, sticking true to your values and making sure that you approach things with honesty, respect, compassion is, you know, can be a very good way to get ahead in the long term. A lot of games that are played that, you know, involve this backstabbing type of behaviors, I have seen it go down in flames more often than not. And although it does result in, you know, quick wins here and there and instant gratification, it really doesn't pay off for those individuals. And so I think here it's especially to diverse individuals, I would recommend making sure that you know who you are as a person and making sure that you have a good set of foundational values intact when you approach any new job or any corporation, especially because you know that you are going to get into a huge game of politics at the end.
Well, thank you so much, Chris. I thought what you said was wonderful. Thank you so very much for all the wisdom you've shared with us and your time today. And I think if viewers are curious or have more questions, could they reach out to you? Do you feel comfortable with that?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, great.